President Biden visited Buffalo, New York this week following Saturday's racially motivated mass shooting at a supermarket there that left 10 people dead and another 3 wounded. The president promised, quote, hate will not prevail. Added that white supremacy will not have the last word. President Biden was joined in Buffalo by New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and she joins us now. We appreciate you once again coming back to the show here on GMA3. And you made the comment, you said after you were there, that people are angry. From what you could tell, you can understand that they're angry at the shooter, but where else are people directing some of that anger right now? Is some of that directed at Washington and a lack of action when it comes to some things, in particular gun control?
I think it's a very broad-based anger that has built up over many, many years. I think people in Buffalo are exhausted, having not only the last 3 years of COVID that has stretched the community's resiliency. People have lost their jobs, people have lost their lives, families have been disrupted because of issues of COVID. And you add to that this horrific, violent act, racist violence based on white supremacy, based on anti-Semitic, racist, bigoted rhetoric, this shooter becoming so becoming an extremist to want to kill so many people so quickly. And so it's a compilation of many, many wrongs, and I think that this community just wants someone to hear them, to understand them, and to fight for them. And that's why President Biden and First Lady Biden going to Buffalo mattered so much.
And Senator, you mentioned COVID there and just how difficult the past couple of years have been for everybody, but there are other folks who have to worry, like you said now, about someone coming after them just for the color of their skin. And you've written that we need to eradicate the poison, your word, the poison of white supremacy. Where do we even start?
So first of all, I serve on the Intelligence Committee, and we have oversight over some of the efforts of the FBI to fight against white supremacy, as well as this violent extremist domestic terrorism that it has been creating and has proliferated. And so we now have ongoing investigations into domestic terrorism because of what's happened over the last few years. And so we need to resource them more, and we need to actually name white supremacy and neo-Nazism as extremist terrorist organizations. And so once we identify these organizations, we can then put more resources behind breaking them up and holding people who commit crimes accountable.
There's been a lot of talk about social media and the role it played in this particular case, but also in just spreading some of this nasty, really despicable rhetoric out there. And you have an idea for creating an independent data protection agency to somewhat regulate social media platforms. But how is that going to work when sometimes, yes, hate speech sometimes is still free speech, that these platforms give them a way to get it out far and wide? But how would this agency you want to create do anything about someone and their right, I guess, to speak, even if that we don't agree with the speech they're spreading?
There's a very big difference between freedom of speech and freedom of reach. And no one is entitled to be able to exponentially increase their reach by putting out bots, by putting out disinformation, by expanding who they can access through social media platforms. And they haven't created oversight and accountability over themselves. They want to make more money. And so whether it's algorithms that are pushing more and more extreme content to our children, to someone like this shooter, because that's how they get more clicks and that's how they monetize their platforms, that has to change. And so what the Data Protection Agency can do is create rules of the road, can guarantee free speech, but can make sure, again, that there's appropriate accountability and that no one is guaranteed exponential reach. And especially when they're spewing hate, division, and disinformation and radicalization. It is a huge problem, and we need full investigations into how these algorithms are being used, how they are using our data against our more vulnerable community members, whether it's a teenage girl who's being pushed towards bulimia and anorexia, or whether it's a potential suicidal, murderous extremist, like the shooter in this case, pushed to more and more harsh and extremist views. There has to be some accountability. And if you had an independent data protection agency, they could do that work, and they could do it from a position of high level of sophistication and a high level understanding of how these platforms work, as opposed to Congress just trying to regulate one day after the next without the level of incisive knowledge that I think a data protection agency would have. And so we're going to push this legislation. I'm going to be reaching across the aisle over the next 3 weeks to find a strong Republican lead to see if we can get a vote on this.
Senator Gillibrand, we always appreciate you taking the time with us, and we will see you again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.